Hello, everybody. Welcome to Miracles and the Word. And Diane, how are you doing today, darling?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for asking, Patricia.
Good. Well, I have to admit that, of the two of us, I'm definitely the technophobic and definitely not the technology person here. However, I am doing this on my computer. So just to share a little bit of authenticity here, we've been having a hard time. I've been having a hard time getting to this page. However, we're here now and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for your help and your patience.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we were chatting today about what would be an interesting topic for us to talk about. You know what I think though, first, I think maybe since people are new to the show and this is only our second recording, that we could talk a little bit about Miracles and the Word and how it came about. Will you share from your perspective?
Sure. So about 2 years ago now, I was on a summit and I was talking about A Course in Miracles and the various courses I give online, and evergreen courses and study groups. And I was also talking about a new program I was going to start called Sacred Creative Arts. And Patricia saw me speak on that particular summit. And the summit was online and she was also a speaker. Afterwards, she was very excited because she heard her inner guidance say, "Oh, you're going to be doing a show, Miracles and the Word, with this woman," which was great, which she shared with me. And here we are 2 years later, just, just getting started. But I always believe there's right timing in everything, divine timing in all things. So, and that everything is for us, not against us. So somehow this is the right timing for us to start this. And Patricia, why don't you tell them what we thought we would share on Miracles in the Word?
Yeah. Um, well, there's the thing that came up for me right away when Diane said, "What should we talk about today?" And I went, judgment, judgment. Judgment is such a huge thing for us today in the world. Look at all the judgment. And you know where the worst judgment is? You know where the worst judgment is. We judge ourselves that we're not good enough, that we're not meeting the mark, and we need to be doing more. Totally, I can relate to this because I'm in the process of it myself in my life. And judging ourselves is really a big hurdle. I believe, Diane, that when we can be aware of how much we judge ourselves is only when we're going to be able to we will realize how we judge other people, whether it's politicians that are way there out there, or our next door neighbor that trampled our plant, or or a beloved that we're upset at for whatever reason. We move into judgment. It's kind of like part of the human experience in a way, you know? And like many things in the human experience that we are having the experience of, gives us an opportunity to uh, come more into alignment with our true self, our spiritual being, our spiritual being having a human experience, aligning with our divinity. When we're aligned in our divinity and we can recognize judging ourselves, then we can make the decision to not judge other people.
Hmm. Well, judgment, I think, is an incredible topic. In my first book, I included it under Life's Big Questions. Does God judge us? Is one of the big questions. Does God judge us? Because a lot of what we learn from religious texts and religious doctrine is God is seen as a judge. He's sitting there judging us, what's good and what's bad, what's right and what's wrong, and that's what happens here in duality. We are, well, this is good and this is not so good, and this is right and this is not so right. But in the channel text that both Patricia and I study Course in Miracles, and Patricia studies I Am the Word, channeled by Paul Selick. There's many books, I think 10 books or more.
There are 12 books.
12 books, yeah. So in this text, basically, in the I Am the Word and in Miracles and Wonders, it talks about us being in a separated world, that the three dimension is a world of separation. In other words, it's Patricia over there and me over here. We're not we're not even in the same screen, see? She's over there and I'm over here. I'm in Vancouver and she's in Santa Barbara. We're separated, but we're together. The Course says that when we come from separation, there's something to attack because there's something over there. When we see that we are all one and we're all one, united in eternal spirit, then if we attack, there's nothing to attack. It's the one hand clapping. It's the old Japanese cone. There's nothing to attack when you come from the place of oneness and eternal love. But when you come from the 3D world, the physical world, which sees this body and then that body over there, now there's something to attack. And when things don't go our way, we tend to judge it. Well, that wasn't good. Well, I wanted something else from that. Or I wanted more money, or I wanted more power, or I wanted more fame, or I wanted to look better, or whatever we're judging. And then we blame. We blame. And we attack. And we judge. And it's the judging that is at the root of the pain. But even deeper, the Course would say it's the belief in separation. It's the belief that Patricia is not me. I know that this is a bit of a tough one. This is a big one.
Well, it is a big topic. Perhaps the topic today, more than even judgment, is this idea of separation and of this idea of not being one. If you're listening to this show, most likely, this is not a new conversation to you. You understand this idea of unity consciousness, this idea of all of us being connected in the web of life with no separation. And as Diane was sharing, this third dimensional reality is a reality of separation, of good and bad and up and down and black and white. And how it expresses itself in the world is through what we judge, through judging. And there is a distinct difference between discernment and judgment. And I think it's really important if you're listening to this that you don't think that we're not saying not to be discerning. It's important to be discerning. Discerning helps us navigate our lives in a positive way, because if you have an opportunity to get a new job, for example, and you're, here's my point.
You want to be able to discern whether it's a good job for you or not.
Right. Oh, what this is about. Thank you. I had a little, I had a little lapse of memory there. Um, you you discern, let's say, the working environment in the office. There's a discern this, but just how people are communicating or how your boss is being with them or whatever, you're able to observe it. And your discernment says to you, no, this is not the job for me because it doesn't feel good to be in here. It's not saying, oh my God, these people are all messed up and they're really this and that and they're bad. So it's not about judging the people in the office or the boss. It's about listening, tuning into your body, and what are you picking up? Is it a supportive environment that you would want to work in? Or is it a contentious environment that's going to end up with you being unhappy that you accepted the job? So maybe that wasn't the perfect example, but it was certainly
Well,
important.
I can give an example that I remember because when I've been studying the Course for over 30 years, and I can remember when I first read in the Course about having no judgment and the Course wanting you to drop all judgment. I was very confused because I said, well, what if I want to cross the road? Don't I have to judge how fast this car is coming? So I don't step out in front of a speeding car. I have to use some sense of judgment, but you're calling that discernment. You're saying that's not judging. The car's not good or bad, or the speed isn't good or bad. That's just discerning whether or not it's safe to step out. That's not the kind of judgment they're speaking about. They're not speaking about navigating the world judgment. They're speaking about judgments that happen in the mind that come from negative thinking. So they come from a negative place, and that negative place, like that shouldn't have happened, or I don't like that person, or that war shouldn't be occurring, or whatever, or the economy shouldn't be the way it is. Those are judgments. We're judging what is. And the course says that when we judge what is, we resist the present moment. We want to resist what's happening in the present moment. That resistance causes judgment, and the judgment causes pain. So, I mean, these things are all tightly linked together. But that's why the courses don't have judgments, because we are all one in the level of spirit. And somehow, when you judge another, you are also judging yourself. You just can't get away from that.
Yeah.
You are. And judging always hurts because it comes from a negative place. Generally, it,
You know, and when we're in that negative place, we're not aligned because that negative place, that negative thought, that judgment is leading to the core of the thought, which is fear.
yeah,
Fear is always going to be at the bottom of a negative thought. Fear is always going to be there. There's no way it can't be there. And
right.
fear is, as the Course tells us, fear is an illusion. It's not even real. But in our human experience, not being awake and aware of who we are, spirit in the body, then we make decisions from our humanity
Hmm.
instead of from our consciousness, from our divinity, from our place of being aligned with our divine selves.
Yeah, so A Course in Miracles says that the ego was created when the Son of God forgot to laugh. And the ego was the birthplace of fear. And our ego is what comes from a fear-based place, right? And the first big fear we had was God was going to be mad at us because we separated from God. That's a very deep, buried thought. But this is part of the reason why society's pushed away from religion, because there is this fearful thought that God is going to judge us, right? That God is the ultimate judge, where God doesn't judge. The Course in Miracles says God doesn't judge. God loves everyone. God is only kind of eternal oneness, isness, love, joy. And love and joy isn't experiencing negativity and fear. It's the ego that's experiencing
Right.
negativity and fear.
Right.
And it's the ego that's attacking. And so we have to somehow, the first step in stopping judgment is just becoming aware that we judge.
Awareness is key. It's the number one thing.
Yeah, we have to just be aware. Hey, why do I have that thought about that person? That person is just a fine person. Why am I thinking that they should stop talking? They've been talking too much, say, for example. I don't know why I'm thinking that, because I want more time to talk, whatever. We've just got to start becoming aware of what
Awareness is
we're
critical.
judging. So
And
that's the first step, right? Becoming aware. And the Course says the ego is a wrong-minded way of thinking, and the spirit is a right-minded way of thinking. Ego is fear-based, spirit is love-based, and we're trying to move to love-based thinking.
right. Well, we do move to love-based thinking as we realize who we truly are. Realization is becoming aware of our true selves. And that's really the essence of the course, is to help us understand that we're one with the divine, that we are spirit. And that's certainly the work of the guides channeling the I am the word work. I call it the word work. Is their message. Their message, that the key message that I love to quote them saying is, you cannot not be who you are. You are God in the body, and you are creating your reality. The thing is that if you don't know that you're creating your reality, then you create it by default. You make judgment, you have negative thinking, you go down those rabbit holes that always end in fear. And fear is where uh, the fear is that we are separate. Someone said that to me a long time ago, and I don't know if it was the spiritual teacher or what, was that I remember them saying to me, do you know what humanity fears the most? That the bottom line fear, the fear that is like the foundation of everybody's fear, Separation, which is exactly what you just shared from the course.
Yeah, we deep down we feel separated from God and that we'll be punished
Yeah.
deep down. And so we hide from that. And where we hide is in the physical world with an ego. Now, the ego's, I don't want to give the ego too bad of a rap. It does help us out. You wouldn't want to be without your ego in a 3D physical plane. It does help you in a certain way. I mean, you want to perceive night and day. You want to perceive hot to cold. You want to perceive different temperatures or different ways of being in the world. But it's when you don't understand that there's another way to look at it that you get trapped. So, you were brought up, say, um, we have this argument in my household all the time that, there's one cloth for everything. In my house, you could use one cloth and you could dry the dishes and then you could wipe the counter and then you could dry your hands and, various different things. One cloth does it all. Handy cloth, right? But my husband, who's a medical health officer, no, 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 no. You don't use that one cloth to wipe the dishes and then wipe the counter and then wipe your hands. And no, there's a different cloth for everything and use the right cloth, right? So if you think that there's a right cloth to use and now you're using the wrong cloth, there's going to be a judgment about that. And that judgment, if the person doesn't change their cloth, is going to cause you pain because you think they're doing it wrong. And so this is how we create. I mean, I'm using a silly example, a cloth, but this is how we think, this is how we order our world. We grow up thinking that our parents taught us this was good, this was right, and this one wasn't. And when we do that, we get trapped into negative thinking, and that negative thinking causes us pain. And then we don't know how to get out of the negative thinking. And if we don't get out of the negative thinking, what happens is we fall into depression. And a lot of people depressed, in anxiety, and they don't know how to get out. What would you suggest, Patricia? How do we get out?
I would suggest uh, raising your vibration to a higher thought. I would suggest remembering who you are as a spiritual being having a human experience. And, uh, we need the ego mind personality to navigate the world. We can't be here without the ego mind personality. We need to know when to take our hand off a hot burner or when to cross the street. We need to be discerning in our lives. And we're here to have a human experience. And we have a world of duality. Even though we're in the third dimension, this world is a world of duality. So we need to become aware, as we mentioned early on today. Awareness is so important. Aware of who you are. Get aware of who you are. Then you can change the thought. Then you can say, well, the person didn't mean it, or whatever. You can actually uncreate what you created.
Mm-hmm.
Uncreated, because we're creating all the time. We're creators in the body, and we're here to recognize who we are and to live from the place of our true identity, not from who we think we are, wearing the mask of Patricia and the body of Patricia, or whomever.
Yes.
So that's I think, to me, and we're just beginning the show, so we're kind of like creating as we go along. For me, the most important message that I think we can impart through the word work that I've been doing for a long time, and the Course in Miracles, which Diane has been doing for 30 years, is to help you to understand this amazing wisdom that has come through these channels to humanity, to help them to wake up to the most important piece of information we could possibly have today. And that is your God in the body. If the word God scares you or thinks this is about religion, this is definitely not about religion. Um, Use another word: universe, source, force, essential self, higher self, true self, superconscious mind. It doesn't make any difference, the label that we use. It's to understand that we are that, that we cannot be separate from. It's impossible for us to be separate from. The guides from the word work say you cannot not be God. You can not believe that, and that is the true atheism.
That's true. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of concepts there. One of them being, how are we the creator? Well, we're the creator because God is a creator and we are extensions of God. And so we have that same creative spirit. That creative spirit is our essence. So, how do we create? We create by thinking. Thoughts are vibrational. They go out into the infinite possibility. And if you put some emotion behind those thoughts, then they really pull. Thoughts pull form into this three-dimensional reality. And
Mm.
the emotions supercharge that manifesting ability. So when we start to become aware of our thinking, oh God, there I am again, thinking badly about, politics, or thinking badly about the economy or badly about my bank account. Don't beat yourself up for it, because that just compounds negative thinking upon negative thinking, negative judgment upon negative judgment. The course is just choose again. Choose a more loving thought. Well, yeah, and I don't have the money maybe to do it today, but I'm starting a great new job next month and I can put away some money for that. And time goes so fast, before you know it, I'll be visiting those national parks. I'll be having my vacation. It makes you feel happier. And really, it will change your reality when you start playing with these concepts. You are the creator of
Right.
your reality, and you do it by becoming aware of what you're thinking. And if you're thinking from a negative place or a low vibration, come to a more neutral thought. Of course, as everything in the world is neutral. It's just how we think about it that charges it positively or negatively.
Right. We give it its meaning.
We give it its meaning.
And
And
we
so,
create it to be the way we want it to be, but we're creating it by default if we don't know that we're creators. We
mhm,
are creators. I use the metaphor of the sun, a sunbeam to a sun. It's like we're the sunbeams to the sun, God, and we're the sunbeams, right? You can't separate a sunbeam from the sun and have it shine. It's impossible. So we have the same power to be creators, as Diane explained. And I'd like to bring in here Joe Dispenza's uh, discussion of how we create. It ties right into what Diane was just saying. When we have a thought, the thought is electric. The thought is electric. The emotions are needed to really create the thought. The emotions are magnetic. So we have a thought, it could be a positive thought, and it could be moved by a happy feeling of anticipation or whatever. And then we actually speak it, we get into the word of it and speak it out into the field vibrationally. We're creating that. We're creators of our reality. And when you're aware that you're creating your reality and you know that you created your reality, then you can really understand how the power that we have here in this human experience to have a fabulous life, because it's our awareness that we're creators.
mhm. and,
And I
and
was,
and lots of it, because thinking is an everyday experience and most of us can't stop thinking. I mean, even when we want to sit quietly and meditate, the thoughts are still running wild sometimes in the head. So, what happens is, because we do it all day, every day, we begin to not to track it. And we begin to say things that, like people say, oh, that kills me. Well, no, I always say, don't say that. Really, don't say that. You're a powerful creator. You don't want it to kill you. Really, you got to start taking your words seriously. And a lot of what we say sometimes we don't take seriously. We just say it off the cuff. Like it's not going to create anything. Like we can just say anything we want. But no, we are creating. And when we become aware of every thought we're having and we start to track it, which is why I love to journal. Um, I don't know, other people might track it, I don't know. Some people put elastic band on their wrist, and when they do something that they know they don't want to do, they just snap the elastic band to remind themselves, no, that
Clean
was,
it up.
yeah, oh, no, I didn't want to do that to myself, right? So there's many ways to start tracking and to become aware. And then once we become aware, then to understand that we can charge it, as Patricia said, by putting a positive thought to it or a negative thought. So the Course says, if you're thinking something that you don't want to think, choose again.
Choose again. Yep.
Choose again.
I studied the Course for 8 years, very religiously, if you excuse the expression, Diane. I was very devoted to it. And there are certain things that it gave me that I have for the rest of my life. Choose again
Choose
is
again.
one of them. And of course, it ties in with everything that we're learning about who we are and the power that we have to create our world. We have the power to create heaven on earth, people. That's the power we have. We can create heaven on earth. And we're a long way from that yet, but there's a very large population of us that do believe this. And we're working on shifting our thinking and becoming aware and awake and present to when negative thinking and fear want to bring us down to those old behavior patterns that we've had forever. I
Mhm.
mean, we're evolving as a species. Isn't it time for us to just let it all go and just stay in alignment with who we truly are? And as I say this to you, I look at my own life and I go, yeah, well, it's easy to say, Patricia. It's about making the decision, making the choice, choosing again to move in a direction that is going to be a happy, inspiring, exciting, joyful, loving, fearless place.
And I wanted to just read a quote from A Course in Miracles because I think it says, why is that so hard? Why is giving up judgment so hard? And why do we really want to? Course says the giving up of judgment, which is the obvious prerequisite for hearing God's voice, is usually a fairly slow process, not because it's difficult, because it's apt to be perceived as personally insulting. The world's training is directed towards achieving a goal in direct opposition to the Course's curriculum. The world trains for reliance on one's judgment as the criteria for maturity and strength. The Course's curriculum trains for the relinquishment of judgment as the necessary condition for salvation. So you can see the Course is training us to use good judgment, to be reliant, to be strong, to do this in our world. And then we have these spiritual texts, these channel texts that are saying you have to drop a lot of what you were trained to do in order to hear the calm, still inner voice of the Creator, which is inside everybody and which will direct you. I mean, I'm sure everybody's had the experience somehow of, you know, say wanting just to move out onto the road and you stop really suddenly and you don't even know why. And then boom, a bicycle appears or something. And something told you, stop.
Yeah.
I've even heard voices that say, stop. And it saves you from something. So a miracle is a shift in perception according to A Course in Miracles. It's not the huge miraculous. It's being able to listen to that still inner voice, that voice for God. So there's the voice for the ego, which is based in negative thinking, fearful thoughts. And then there's the voice of the ego, which is inside everyone. And some people might call it your intuition. They might call it a gut feeling. They might not hear a sound, but they might, get goosebumps all over, or they just might not feel good when they walk into a room. We each have different, what's called them spidey senses, or what I call inner sentience. And we're not taught a lot about that. We're not taught how to tune into that. So both of these channeled works, I Am the Word, and A Course in Miracles, is really trying to help us do that. It's trying to help us get back in
And
touch.
the and the Course in Miracles, if you're a Course in Miracles student, you know what we're talking about here. I mean, it's not an easy book to pick up and to start reading. I mean, it
It's
the
dense.
pages are are tissue paper thin, like the Bible, and it's a huge, thick book, and it's intimidating. But when you get to the core essence of what Jesus is channeling through the book, you really do get it. And with the word work, do you have the word book there, Diane? I didn't.
I don't have the I am one. I do have the one that Patricia and I are reading together right now, which is called The Book of Innocence. But
And
the first one is I Am the Word by Paul Selig. I don't have that one right in front of me. Sorry. Yeah.
anyway, in the word work, uh, it's a constant reminder from the guides that are the authors of the book for us to be aware of who we are truly, like no kidding, like we're aspects of God. We're God in the body. And when we do that, then when we're home free, that's when we can be aware enough to catch the negative thought and then make another choice, then choose again. So to me, it always comes back to um, why are we on a spiritual path?
Why are we on the spiritual path?
Why are we on a spiritual path? What is it that we want to accomplish? What is it? What is it that drives us?
Well, the Course says we want inner peace. We don't want to be in dis-ease. We want inner peace. And it says you have no idea the tremendous release that comes from releasing your judgments about your brother. We don't know how much they're weighing us down. Our judgments about our brother, the politics, the schools, the teachers, the
Huge.
whatever.
And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's on television, it's on radio, it's on podcasts. When you talk to people about it, I mean, I have friends that I just don't talk politics about at all because I believe me, I was a political junkie there for a while, and this is before the first time Trump came in. Go ahead, I said the word. And I would watch the political shows one after another. I go, you've got to be kidding. This guy's and I was judging him. And when he won, I was totally flabbergasted because I never thought that I would ever see something like this. And now it's to the point where I don't judge it anymore. I trust that it's happening for a reason in our evolution. And instead of looking at Trump with judgment and the craziness of what he's doing right now in our world, I lift him up. I see him as a divine being having a human experience as Donald Trump, being totally asleep to who he
And
truly
so
is.
the people who don't know the word work won't know what you mean by I lift him up. What do you mean by that?
Lifting him up means that you actually see him as divine. You see him as the spiritual being having the human experience showing up as Donald Trump. He doesn't know that as Donald Trump. But listen, either we're all divine or no one is. We can't be a little bit pregnant, that that expression. Either we are God or we're not. And that's really the alignment. Now, if we believe that we're not God and you never will God, that will be God, which brings me back to what I think we're all here to do. I think we're here in the human experience, spiritual beings in the human experience, to remember who we are and to be realized in the body.
I
When
agree.
when we're realized in the body, then we can consciously create not only heaven on earth in our lives personally, but heaven on earth by working collaboratively and creatively and with everybody collectively. Then we're going to rock and roll. So this is happening. This is happening, people. This is happening. We cannot deny it. No. Um, and the reason why Diane and I are so excited and passionate about our work and sharing with you is because we want you to consider the possibility of what we're saying. That who you think you are is just who you think you are. The mask you're wearing, the meat suit.
More than your ego, mind, personality, or your ego, mind, identity, you are eternal spirit.
That's
You
right.
can't think at all. If you've ever seen a loved one who's died, sat with them and then had them pass, you know when they're gone. Because the shell is just a shell. The body is just a physical shell that houses the eternal spirit, which leaves. And it is eternal. Not, it doesn't die. And that's a pretty amazing thing. We tend to think of death as a bad thing. Somebody died. Well, yes, they won't be with us in their physical body, but they will always be with us spiritually. And there's even ways to contact them spiritually. And so we need to, shift our judgment about death, for example, to free ourselves so we don't cause ourselves so much pain around death. There's a lot of things that need to have a shift in perception, as the Course would say. You
The
know,
same thing in the word work, when our vibration is raised, when we raise our vibration through positive thinking, changing our thinking, choosing again, we are uh, aligning with our divine selves. What
we
did
are.
you say? What did you just say before that? Because I was making a caveat on that. That's okay.
Oh, I was just saying that we need to change our judgments about a lot of things in the world, and this is the time to do it because this is the time of transformation. And our judgment around death is one of those, right? We think that death is the end. Death isn't the end. It's a beginning. It's stepping through another door to another dimension
Doorway.
where, maybe in the future we'll open up more to the possibilities of communication. I mean, look at us now. We're communicating and there's no wires attached. I mean, it's amazing. Maybe we will get to the point where we can communicate with the people that have passed over. There are some people that do already. But maybe we will be able to have that because we will have opened our minds to we are more than our bodies. We are at our essence eternal spiritual beings. And that's why we study this, right, Patricia? To really know who we are. Who are we?
And I think that's why people are on a spiritual path, bringing it full circle. We're on the spiritual path to discover who we are and what this is all about. And it's a game. Really, it's like a great metaphor is the word, is the idea that we're in the game of life. And we've heard that term a lot. And we can either sit on the stands and watch life happen and be sad and depressed and woe is me, or we can be up to bat. And this is really where humanity is headed, to a major awakening where we're all awakened and we all know who we truly are and co-create together to create heaven on
Absolutely.
earth.
Yeah.
What
And
do you
judgment is
think?
one step on the ladder, the spiritual evolution ladder, just watching our judgments. And so that's watching our thoughts, watching our words, maybe watching our actions even,
Well,
because
absolutely,
all of
because
those,
our actions come from our words and our feelings. Yeah.
yeah. And we don't feel good when we judge because judgment always involves on some level rejection of something. Like we're pushing something away often.
Fear. It all comes back to fear. Fear in my book is the boogeyman. It's the bottom line of all of our issues.
Yeah, so we want to move away from fear.
And the irony of it is, the Course says the fear is an illusion. We're told that fear is a false evidence appearing real. It's not even real, and yet we buy into it.
Let me say why the Course says that, because that people might find that confusing. Because they'll say, well, I tell you, when I faced that bear, I certainly felt that fear. That fear was real. Here's what the Course says. The Course makes a definition between real and unreal. It says what's real is what's eternal. So love is real because love is eternal. It will be the same 2,000 years from now as it is today. But that bear that ran you down, or that car that just about hit you and you had to jump back in fear, that's a shifting, changing evolution. That is not eternal. That's the shifting evolution of the 3D dimension. And the Course says if something is changing all the time, it's unreal. So they make a fine distinction there, a different type of distinction that we might make. Generally in 3D, I've heard people say if I can't touch it, feel it, taste it, sense it, it isn't real. But the Course says actually it's the other way around. It often what's real is what you can't see, like love. I mean, you see a demonstration of love, you might feel love, but you don't really see love. Love isn't, what color is love? People would answer all sorts of different answers.
Yeah.
And some people might say, well, there's no color at all. So, anyways, we're starting to attune ourselves to finer vibrations, because as you move up from anger, fear, judgment, negative thinking into more positive thinking, when you move out of doubt, when you move into anticipation, encouragement, joy, you move into love, you move into enlightenment. Those are higher and finer vibrations. So they're harder to get in touch with.
Yeah, and when we're there, we're aligned. When we're there, our life flows and we go in the flow instead of pushing the envelope or trying to make things happen.
We
So I
do.
think we began this conversation on judgment and we're wrapping it up with love. I think that's real appropriate. Shall we pick a card?
I've picked a card, and so this is a bit of a long one. I picked a card from my Diane Lund Miracles. I have 8 decks of cards, and I picked this one. Each one is a quote from the Course in Miracles. It says, "When a brother acts insanely, he is offering you an opportunity to bless him.
Stop
His
one second.
need is yours."
I just want to interrupt you for a second because it's such a powerful opportunity to look. If we could substitute someone's name there who gives us trouble, you know what I mean? Like our Uncle Charlie, or I would use a politician here. I would use his name. Think about it from that perspective, and then it becomes much more personal. Would you start it again?
Okay. When my Uncle George, my cousin Tom, my brother or sister acts insanely, he is offering you an opportunity to bless him. His need is yours. You need the blessing you can offer him. There is no way for you to have it except by giving it.
Having
Pretty great quote
it.
for the end.
Yeah, a perfect quote for judgment.
Mhm.
And I have to say, I was thinking of Trump.
Okay.
I was thinking of Trump because he's behaving insanely, and for me, the part of me that Patricia Diorio, ego mind personality, wants to get right down there with all the rest of the people that are judging him today. But then I pull myself away from that. No, he's also a divine being having a human experience. And his
Yeah.
human experience looks like this. So do I judge him? When I say he's not of God because he's this way? No, he is. There's nothing that is not of God. So it's, I think, a wonderful way to close. And
Absolutely.
I will pick a card. Let's ask this question of spirit. If there were a guide card for all of us to help us move past judgment of ourselves and others, what would that card be? Feeler. So get in touch with your feeling. Do I have that? Can you see
Yeah,
the
there,
card?
I can see it
All
there. Yeah.
right. This Child of Cups, the Fool, this is the card, the heart of the Fool Child. The Fool Child in the Tarot represents innocence, openness, vulnerability, and trust. Trust in God and the universe that everything is okay. The Fool Child doesn't judge, doesn't worry if the Fool Child is aligned. And so feeling, um, trust your feelings. Maybe it's even trust your feelings when you hear Diane and I talk about this. Maybe it pushes your envelope a little bit. Maybe you think about no judgment, and then you think about someone in your life that's really hurt you, or a circumstance in your life that has been devastating for you, and you just can't imagine um, moving past it and blessing them or raising them up. Trust your feelings when you hear something like this. Trust your feelings because your feelings will guide you in the right direction. Do you have
Yeah.
anything to add to that, Diane?
No, I just want to say to end that let's just give them our website so they can check us out a little bit further. My website is miraclesandwonders.ca, and Patricia's is
Alignwiththedivine.net.
Yeah,
align-with-the-divine.net. And I also have a YouTube channel. Um, if you go to youtube.com, Get Conscious Now, it's a series of television shows that I did for many years on science and spirituality. You have a YouTube channel too, don't you, Diane?
I do. I have a YouTube channel. I do something called Monday's Miracle Moments, and you can go to, I forget what mine's called, Diane Lund Miracles. Just try that, put that in. And you can watch my Monday Miracle Moments. They're little videos. I've done over 300 of them on topics just like this. And it gives you a tiny little toe in the water about a bigger topic. And, you can just see if anything interests you there. So that's it. Thank you so much, Patricia.
Yes,
And
thank
join
you,
us next
Diane.
time.
Thank you, everyone, for watching today, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.